Hello, Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we will understand about the hypertrophy. So we will understand all things like signaling pathway as well as the overview. So let's understand about this is a person contain a skeletal muscle cell. So we are focusing on the skeletal muscle cell. Remember that things. We are not understanding the anatomy. So the inside is the myofibril, which that is contain a sarcomere. The sarcomere is a functional and structural unit of the myocyte. This is the myofiber muscle cell. So several stimuli will affect the skeletal muscle cell, lead to growth. The hypertrophy means the growth of the muscle cell, and increase the size is known as hypertrophy rather than the atrophy, mean the decrease of the size. So the number one is the nutritional hypertrophy. This is the basically 60% effect due to the nutritional hypertrophy. So in this is the 2 times heavy meal and no snacking, no pre-workout or post-workout concerns, and fasting as well as intermittent fasting, which that contain high protein diet rich with vitamins, supplementation as well as steroids. This is the hypertrophy factor. And whey protein, casein, protein, creatine, amino acids, branch chain amino acid, these are all the hypertrophic factor. Let's understand and look at the cell. So cell basically contain a several receptor like insulin receptor, IGF-1 receptor as well as growth hormone receptor. This amino acid and glucose as well as free fatty acid after absorption during the eating time, so the food will be digested to absorb into the blood circulatory system, produce insulin. Insulin will trigger the GLUT channel and other channel will lead to nutrient moving inside, and in this way the nutrient rich condition of the cell as well as anabolic steroid, growth hormone and supplementation work collectively. Time required 1 to 3 weeks after this activity, and other factor we will understand also, so please wait. So this hypertrophy will occur. In this way the mitochondria will increase also, but the size of the cell will increase. Let's understand about the other factor, how it can work and hypertrophy will work. Like exercise. Exercise mean not stretching, not lightweight, but the hard training and unstable weight lifting, which that is unbearable. Try to lift and break down the muscles will also trigger the hypertrophy. Fatigue also trigger the hypertrophy, and tire to start more rep in single set, and the cause muscle injury, and don't take rest more than a minute. These all things is the hypertrophic factor, which that will lead to every day after this exercise require the sleep. So the sleep is the best hypertrophic factor. Remember that things. Basically, the sleep will trigger the more hypertrophy. It is known as recovery. So remember that thing. It is known as the rest. Every day, 9 hours rest required for increase the myofibrils to next day improvement. So let's understand about the sleep or recovery. What will be happen in the sleep? So during sleep, the replication of nuclei in the myocyte and synthesis of protein due to the increase of the nuclei mean the increase of the DNA, and increase of the DNA means the increase the facilitation of the protein synthesis from the transcription to translation, a messenger RNA produce more. So the injury and breakdown of muscle fiber, thickness and number of mitochondria increase for prevention of anaerobic respiration and fatigue. So in the next time, the number of mitochondria will increase, will lead to fatigue and the anaerobic respiration prevention. And in this way, the basically is the oxygen consumption will be maximized. Result in a day to week will lead to hypertrophy. So the hypertrophy is the meaning the size of the muscle, the thickness increase, muscle fibers increase, sarcomere diameter increase, even the number of the sarcomere increase. Mitochondria increase number and enzyme like glycogen synthase increase. It means the anabolism of the cell increase because the glycogenesis will occur. Glycogen increase will lead to increase the cell size and the deposition of glucose in the form of glycogen in the presence of insulin and IGF-1. So remember, when you will eat, the IGF and other basically the insulin will increase as an anabolic. In this way the muscle mass increase, the number of muscle and nuclei will increase. It requires the time 5 to 6 months will lead to gain the muscle mass. The normal of muscle cell increase double, nuclei increase and synthesis of protein increase. So the muscle memory increase. What is the meaning of muscle memory? Muscle memory means the nuclei will increase. Whenever you will quit the gym, whenever you will quit this habit, will lead to not disappear the nuclei but the shrinkage of the cell. In this way again exercise and again that habit will be restored. In this way again nuclei will produce that mRNA into synthesis of protein and again muscle mass improve rapidly. The stress of the skeletal muscle is injury of myocyte, weight bearing extremely, and on the other hand, other stressor, tearing muscles, and other things like massage and other things basically steroids. So injury of the sarcomere will lead to double the sarcomere as well as thickness of the myosin and actin. In this way, the satellite cell more reside on the muscle injury site for repairing mechanism. In this way, the hypertrophy will occur. Also, the weightlifting and sleep required the recovery. Okay, let's understand about the signaling pathway. So, how will be changed the cell, the myocyte. This is the receptor, insulin like growth factor receptor, and the plakoglobin. This plakoglobin is important for the hypertrophy. So let's understand about all things. Here is inside is the mitochondria. So remember, this is the extracellular matrix outside, while this is the intracellular matrix. Extrinsic factor and intrinsic factor collectively work, but for short, the extrinsic factor is insulin like growth factor 1, trigger via fasting, and the growth hormone trigger via fasting also, while the insulin during the fat state. So both collectively fasting and fat state work for the development of the muscle. This one bind through insulin receptor if insulin or IGF-1 if the IGF-1 receptor will trigger the certain channel like the GLUT4. Amino acid and glucose will enter. When amino acid glucose will enter into the cell, in this way the nutrient rich condition of the intracellular myocyte. So here is the insulin receptor substrate 1 protein will trigger the PI3K protein, and in this way the PDK1 protein trigger collectively will lead to AKT enhancement, this protein phosphorylation, and this protein function very important, and we will discuss also. But on the other hand, SHC trigger the RAS and RAF, MEC and ERK. This MEC and ERK is the anabolic protein cascade of phosphorylation, which that trigger that certain gene for the synthesis of protein, which can be actin and myosin. This amino glucose and fatty acid, for example, this remember that things, and which that trigger this nutrient rich condition, the mTOR pathway, rather than the AMPK pathway. Remember that thing. mTOR will trigger to phosphorylate and recruit the certain protein like Richter and Raptor with the GBL. So the Richter and Raptor work differently. So remember, this is the Raptor protein binding with the mTOR pathway will lead to protein synthesis, while the 4-FBP1 will inhibit, but the mTOR pathway will inhibit this protein, while the S6K1 trigger, so in this way the mTOR will trigger it for the synthesis of protein, while the AKT will trigger the TSC1 and 2, and RAB protein will trigger the mTOR. So in this way the AKT is responsible for the triggering of the mTOR pathway, while on the other hand the Richter protein containing mTOR GBL complex will trigger the AKT. Further, this is the positive feedback. Remember that things. And in this way the AKT will inhibit the FOXO 1, 3 and 4. 1, 3 and 4 FOXO is responsible for the triggering of the necrosis and apoptosis. For example, when injury of the muscle requires the necrosis for clear of that injury. But the AMPK during the fasting will trigger this FOXO for the apoptosis. So in this way, the apoptosis will occur when you will fasting. So fasting is also important. But the autophagy and lysosome will trigger through FOXO. But the Richter containing complex of mTOR which that inhibit the autophagy and lysosome. Anyhow, this FOXO 1 and 3, 4 protein which that trigger the apoptosis, necrosis and ubiquitination, proteasome formation, autophagy and lysosome protein containing complexes which that will inhibit the cell growth and apoptosis rather than the cell survival. But this is due to the fasting. So when you will fast, you will prevent the cancer because mTOR is responsible for the causing cancer. But when you will injure, so it will work normally. So remember that things. This is the hypertrophy. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video for this and bye.